Well, let's go ahead and get started. So let me introduce myself. My name's Ken Flowers. I am the Dean of Current Education at Lake Michigan College. And kind of what kicked this conversation off or kicked this opportunity off is I co-chair the Trends Planning Committee along with some others. And one of our meetings, one of the things that we had a discussion about is, what's our trends planning sessions? And generally every year when we have our trends conference, we have roundtables, and individuals are able to get together and have conversations about best practices, conversations about what's going on. And so we actually have right now, a trends conference planned, a virtual conference planned in February. And we'll talk about that as things go first. But Curtis, who is part of our committee, said, well, I don't want to wait until February to have these conversations. We need to be communicating now with our colleagues. And that, Curtis was kind of the onus of bringing us all together. So we sat down and decided we're going to have multiple sessions. So we broke out welding, we broke out machining and manufacturing, and others, and move forward. So that's kind of the backdrop of why we're here. It is good to get feedback from your colleagues just to kind of see what's going on. We had our MODAC meeting yesterday, and we spent over an hour talking about what the different schools are doing. And so it's really good to get that feedback and hear what your colleagues are doing. Plus also seeing individuals across the state that are potential resources of information. We do things differently, and we've dealt with this pandemic differently. And so we're really looking to have a conversation. Now, after I get done with my little spiel, I'm mostly just going to be taking notes and listening to you, because I'm not a welding teacher. And so I don't, I know what Nate tells me, who's online here from us. So I know what he tells me. But I kind of want to listen and hear what your feedback is, and, talk about the things that you've done into the pandemic, and how you've dealt with it, and then what you see from this point forward, and we'll just kind of work from there. But before we do that, what I'd like to do is get some introductions across the board. And what I'll do is I'll just call on you and just kind of tell us who you are and what you do, and then we'll just kind of move from there. So on my screen, I got Harvey's upper left. So Harvey, talk to us.
Sure. Well, much like you, I am not a welding instructor. I am the skilled trades manager at Delta College. So as the skilled trades manager, I run the apprentice training programs for area employers. So they are sending me apprentices that I do have in our welding classes, as long with many other classes. Not all apprentices are welders, unfortunately. Some are machinists and tool makers and die makers and machine repairmen. So I have them all, but I am interested in hearing what you guys are dealing with and going through. And I see that Keith Proctor is on here. He is a welding instructor for us at Delta. So I'll just kind of be listening in the background.
Great, thanks, Harvey. Nice to meet you. Keith, let's go right to you, buddy. Keith Proctor.
Yeah, I'm Keith Proctor. I'm at Delta College. I work with Harvey. I'm one of 3 full-time welding faculty at Delta. This is my 3rd year at Delta, and I'm just on here to get some ideas and learn from you guys.
Great, thank you. Richard Mathis.
Yeah, my name is Richard Mathis. I go by Rick, that's fine.
Okay.
If anybody wants to call me out on that, that's all right.
Okay.
I'm with Northwestern Michigan College, of course, the welding instructor. This is my first full-time faculty welding with NMC. I've been an adjunct. I actually made a lateral move from the Career Tech Center here after 23 years. So I decided to make a lateral move and try the other side of it. But I'm looking for everybody's input, that's for sure.
Great, thanks, Rick. Allison.
I am Allison Starrett. I have been with Southwestern Michigan College for at the end of this spring, it'll be 7 years. I spent the first 2 years over at our sister school teaching over at the high school CTE. And then I spent the last, 5 years over at the college working on over at the college side of it.
Great. Nate Cram.
Yeah, I'm Nate Cram. I'm the welding instructor at Lake Michigan College. I'm a one-man show. I'm the only full-time faculty member for welding. I do have a part-time instructor that teaches for me 2 nights a week. Excuse me, 2 nights a week. And just looking forward to hearing what everybody's been up to.
Okay. Joel.
Kalamazoo Valley Community College. I help out Eric Martin full time. Well, not full time, but I teach welding 3/4 time, and the other 1/4% I teach EDMT power fluid. I'm there for this will be my 4th year.
Great, thank you. Eric Martin.
Morning, everybody. I'm Eric Martin. I'm the department chair for welding at Kalamazoo Valley. I guess I'm the old timer in the room. I've been at Valley for 24 years and 12 years part-time before that. So I've kicked around southwestern Michigan for quite a while, and I know a good number of you out there. So happy to be here this morning.
Great, thank you. Cameron.
There we go. Yeah, I'm Cameron Barrier. I'm the full-time faculty here at Oakland Community College with the welding and the fabrication. Been doing it for 6 years, 7 years. It's kind of just blended together now, but yeah, we're curious to hear everybody else's thoughts on how they got through all this. So yeah.
Great, thanks. Michelle. Okay. Tanisha.
I'm here. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, Michelle.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I am Michelle White. I've been I'm with Wayne County Community College District, of which I've been with them for a little over 20 years. And one of the executive administrators that work with the faculty, in which we have welding programs, as well as a few other disciplines that you're going to be doing some of these trends Zoom sessions on. And we want to certainly see and hear what new trends will help us navigate through this, our new normal, as we seek to have a successful educational year for our students, our staff, and our faculty. So that's why I'm here, just to listen and to assist our faculty. And I believe we might have Tanisha and I work together, and we've invited some of our faculty. I'm not sure if any of them are on right now, but when you send the videos, and we'll be able to share them with our faculty as well.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you. Tanisha.
Hi, I'm Tanisha McGee. I'm with Wayne County Community College District, the Eastern Campus. Can you hear me? Yeah. I'm with Wayne County Community College District, the Eastern Campus, and I work with our career programs, and such as welding, alongside Michelle White.
Great, thank you. Tom Summers.
Hello, hi. I'm Tom Summerix. I'm the welding instructor for Muskegon Community College. I'm just kind of here to collaborate with other fellow educators.
Great, thanks, Tom. Curtis.
I'm Curtis LaHaye. I'm an auto instructor at Macomb Community College. I'm hosting this roundtable next week, so I'm trying to get some tips from Ken on how to host good roundtable. The other part, if you guys do me a favor, the auto enrollment's really low for the roundtable. So if you can tell your fellow auto instructors to sign up, I really would appreciate it. So thank you.
Thanks, Curtis. I thought there was one. Laura. You moved on my screen.
Oh, you're good. Good morning, everyone. My name is Laura Thiero, and I am the Associate Dean of what we call EMIT at Oakland Community College. It stands for Engineering, Manufacturing, and Industrial Technologies.
Great, thank you. And so basically what I want to probably, and I'll just kind of go by school since we have different schools, but basically want to get kind of like your approach on what you've done to transition from, full lab face-to-face to kind of what you've done. And what I'm looking for potentially is like, did you, and I think others are looking as well, did you incorporate new software, different kind of techniques, different kind of virtual things into this? So Allison, I'm going to start with you. How did you approach what you're doing, and what kind of, and also too, what I'd like to hear from you is, and others, is what has changed, and do you see it being helpful to some of the things that you've done that you're not going to go back to?
So right out the gate, I told my students that I had a plan A, which was the typical face-to-face lecture with face-to-face lab. Plan B was where we go to more of an online learning front with theory, lectures, quizzes, and the final going online, and just basically going kind of brushing over what lecture theory is, but going directly out to lab almost every single day so they're not missing anything. And then plan C was basically prepping for where we're at right now with the doors being closed and them going completely virtual. So I pretty much planned for plan B pretty much right out the gate, just making sure that the students had as much lab as they humanly could have. We adopted the GW book series over the summer, and I will say they've actually been kind of a godsend for us because of that book series. They've come with online quizzes, they come with online homework for students. There's a lot of like online back-end content, and for our program, that was kind of a new spot for us to start bringing more of an online content for our students. We're just going through the hump of actually trying to get students to actually do the online homework now. I feel like I'm pulling teeth at that point for that kind of stuff. But I will say, for doing my plan B of making sure students went out to lab almost instantly every single time we came in, I actually feel okay. My students pretty much hit all of their lab benchmarks, even though we got the lab doors closed for about 3 weeks early. I will say though, I am a bit nervous on what's going to happen for winter semester on whatever that future is.
Can you elaborate on, so when you talked about specific, was it a soft GW is what you said?
Yeah, GW book series. I actually have one of the books. This one, I don't know, hold on. It's called Modern Welding. I don't know if my camera will let me.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the series we went to. They've got a math for welders book. They've got a blueprint for welders book. It's got and they've got cartridges that can get loaded up to whatever your learning software system is. And there's quizzes built into it. There's even PowerPoints built into it, everything. So it makes it a lot easier to load everything on, whether you're using like Moodle or Blackboard, whatever your learning management system is. It's just been building those online classes now.
Okay. Are there videos along with that, or is it just, okay? All right.
There's videos. There's even like vocabulary like vocabulary activities. There's like matching activities in there. Let's see. Do you guys mind if I share my screen real quick? I can show kind of like what my metallurgy Moodle looks like a little bit to kind of give you an idea of what.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay, so this book cartridge comes with, the students have to activate their subscription, but it comes with an actual ebook. So if your students try to give they forget their book all the time, they actually have a book online, which is really nice. How's that slowly loading? And so it gives them an interactive glossary. It gives them for each of their chapters, there's PowerPoints for it. There's flashcards, vocabulary matching for it also. There's built-in quizzes that I can create, and I can pick and choose what questions I want for the quizzes too. So it's not, set rigid in stone. So this is the book. So this is exactly what the online book site looks like. for the students. So if you have a student that prefers to have the online book too, it does give them that option. I'm actually really happy that we switched to that for the books this year. We're going to be finishing the spring cartridge for our math. To let everybody know how it goes for that one.
Okay.
Can you post the book, put the book up one more time, please, Allison?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or is there a way to put it in the chat?
Absolutely,
Yes.
I can do that.
Yeah, if you put it in the chat,
Wonderful.
that way you can copy that and go from there. Thank you. Is any questions for Allison?
Okay, Allison, I got a quick one. What is your timeline for going through something like that? How long do you give the students? Do you create deadlines that cut them off and things like that?
I will be honest, my deadlines this year have been a little more lax. I'm at the point now where I'm just like, please just do your homework. Just turn it in. I've got CTE too, so the high schoolers are just, as I laugh, I feel like I'm pulling teeth and they're borrowing my tools with no Novocaine as I'm pulling their teeth out of their heads. But the thing is, next year, because since this is a new thing for all of us going on to the online status, next semester, I'm going to be a little more tighter with the deadlines too, because they were struggling through Moodle. We were all trying to get this all up and going. My deadlines, I preferably like to have every 2 to 3 weeks that they're not late, but I actually had a student that had the goal of actually trying to turn in week 2 homework yesterday and then tell me whenever I had the time to please grade it for him. And we're at week 13 now.
Yeah.
So.
Great. Thanks, Allison. Thanks for sharing
You're
that. Rick, how are you handling things?
I'm
Being newbie, you kind of got thrown into a storm here.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a unique situation because the other instructor, one of the reasons that I transferred over is because, of course, the main instructor left. He's a ferrous engineer, so he went to DTE. So I kind of come into this halfway through the year where COVID wasn't even an issue yet. And then bang, all of a sudden, we had to do all this. So he basically didn't have any game plans or anything for that. So, needless to say, I was scrambling. So I got some stuff on Moodle. We're going through some terminology. I had some students do work with weld symbols and things like that. But I actually just got a book. It's called Welding Skills, and that has the flashcards on it. Because one of the feedbacks that I got from the students when we did the student surveys was a little more research, or resources, I'm sorry. And that's what I wanted to give them. So with this book that I found with the other guy that I teach with, he found it, and it's a fantastic book. So we're ordering that with a teacher's edition. I'm going to get with my IT guy. We're going to dump a lot of that stuff on Moodle. Again, I'd like to try to give them deadlines, but I got students right now that haven't done anything yet. And it's, I tell them, this is how we have to do it. So if you do it, your grades will be fine. If not, I have to put in zeros. You still have to show some type of progress or lack of progress. So if that happens, their grade's going to nothing. So fortunately, right now, I've got a couple students that are lagging behind, but they're contacting me. I made phone calls all yesterday. It's like, get off your butts, get the stuff in. So I'm, coming across the same issues that Allison is, and that's too bad. I mean, one of the reasons that I slid over from a tech center is because a lot of those students lack motivation. And I was hoping that coming over to here, they would have a little more motivation because they have a vested interest with the money. So I'm seeing it a little bit, but not as bad as at the tech center. So we'll see what which is we call it our spring term, starts in January. We're planning on just rolling ahead as normal, and we'll see what the health department says and everything like that. So, but I'm going to dump some of this on Moodle, and I'll be ready this time.
Okay. Nate, you want to tell us some of the things that you've done?
Yeah, so we've basically started in the fall in a hybrid format where we leverage the lab as heavily.
Let's even back it up. So let's start in the spring. Let's start in March and talk about, where you had little to no videos and what you've done, and kind of link all that together.
Yeah, so back in March, we were kind of told to, we were shutting down. And I had actually conferred with a couple of you guys, Eric specifically, Allison specifically, and just talked about, what you guys were doing. Because we didn't know at that point if we were going to get to come back, and we were thinking that it was going to be like, 2 weeks, we could come back, maybe a month, and then things kept getting pushed back. So what we did was Kevin Crittner and myself, he's our machining instructor. We started building our own online resources. And one of the things that we did is we purchased a GoPro camera, and we started recording just instructional videos about how to do various things in our lab. So simple stuff like how to, run a shear, how to wrap up a grinder, little things like that, all the way up to how to set up some of our more advanced equipment. Doing some demo videos. I did several demo videos with torches and whatnot on how to set up a torch properly, and how to make good cuts, and setting it up for welding versus cutting, and so on and so forth. So really have spent since March until now adding to those resources. So, I was having a baby in September, so I knew I was going to miss the first couple weeks of the term. So what I did was all summer long, I was creating presentations online. So I create them on Google Docs, and then I download them into PowerPoint, and I create voiceover on them with document cameras. And they're not designed to really replace, in my opinion, that face-to-face interaction, but it's a really good supplement just to explain these topics that we talk about so frequently in class, like weld discontinuities and defects, welding procedures and qualification, nomenclature, that kind of stuff. So everything has its own presentation, and it's a lot of work. So, because I don't just prep, Weld 101 and Weld 102, and that's the only class I have. I mean, I have like 14 preps per term. So, my wife doesn't understand when I say I've got to do all this work. She's like, well, what do you mean? Well, if you think about it, if you're going to build your own resources, you've got to develop it. Then I do the voice work with it. And then from there, generally I create assessments tied to each of those. So it's 3 things for each item. And if you're doing that for 14 classes, well, we do the math and we go, well, that's 42 things I got to do to get one thing done. So it takes a lot of time to do, but I'm feeling really good about where we're at right now with the fact that we've been working on these resources for 9 months. I've created more videos. I mean, at first it was really awkward when I was creating these videos. I don't like hearing my own voice anyway and whatnot, but now I'm so used to it. I think I could probably star in a Hollywood production. So, we've just been doing that. We also have been leveraging a lot of Tooling U. So Tooling U is a good supplement for us. It's, when we get told you got to go online, Tooling U is great just from the perspective of it's another avenue where, hey, I can push this resource out to my students, and, it gives them the lessons and the assessments, but they like to have that personal touch with things. So I think that by having my voice involved in some of this, it really helps. And also in the videos, it's me explaining how the things work and showing them, and it's not just a canned video from YouTube. And I do use those. I mean, I'm not saying I don't use, YouTube, WeldTube, or, welding tips and tricks and whatnot, but they like the fact that it's individualized kind of to them. And then this time around also, we've been using some Zoom. We hadn't used it really live until this kind of shut down here because we were meeting face to face. So because of the fact that we were running with reduced numbers. So normally, you have 16 people in a class. This time around, I was capped at 10. And I will say that's been kind of one of the nice, bright things that came from this is the fact that, man, you don't realize how much more work 6 people is until you only have 10. And you go, I was able to do really in the amount of time that I was given. And I was hard on them about explaining that we're on borrowed time every day that we come in. We need to make sure that we're following the rules, whether you personally agree with them or not, it has to be that way. But I'm feeling really good about what we were able to accomplish with the labs. The ones who are complaining the most, frankly, at this point that are saying, when can I come back in and get to work, are the ones who didn't take advantage of the time that they were given. They left early, or they showed up late, or they missed class because they didn't feel like coming in. and or they played on their phones, and now they're seeing where their grade is at based on their lab performance, and they're going, well, when do I get a chance to make this up? You made your bed, now you got to lay in it. So you better get your online resources done to boost that grade up a little bit. So I'm feeling really good about, like I say, where we're at. It's been a lot of work, and it's going to continue to be a lot of work. But it seems to be going pretty well overall. The participation rate, mine's actually been fairly decent for the most part. Like I say, the ones who are not participating are the ones who are upset because they can't come in. And those are the ones who, frankly, their grade was already, for me, on the lower end of the spectrum anyway. So my middle section of students and up, they're all doing very well.
Great. Any questions for Nate? One of the things, and I didn't give you time to ask a question, but one of the things that I will be doing is, for each, so Allison kind of laid out some way that she does it. Nate kind of, I used Google Docs, Canvas, GoPro. I'll make sure I get all that in my notes in case we miss something. So when you look back, you have that individual's like, well, hey, we use Canvas, and how's the GoPro work? How long is the videos? I have faculty posting their videos on YouTube, and so they've created their own YouTube channel. And so those are the kind of things I'll put together and send my notes, so you don't have to try to fast track this all today. So Keith, you had a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Nate, how'd the GoPro work? Because I've posted videos on e-learning just with my cell phone, like how to do a fit up or how to do a material prep, but you just can't see very good detail in it.
Yeah, it took a lot of experimenting. So actually what Mr. Crittner and I discovered was if we actually machined out a little angle gauge, and if you put the headgear on and you use that angle gauge, it puts the camera at the exact right angle for you every time. Because I had the same thing where I would create a video and I would think, man, this is really good content. Then I watch the video and the camera's up too high or it's down too low. So we just kind of used some experimentation working together and figured out an approach. And really, it seems corny, but it works very well for us. And it definitely takes some getting used to with working with that stuff. Because, it feels awkward. When you're first doing it, you feel goofy because you got on all this stuff. And then we bought a kit that came with all kinds of headgears and chest straps and wrist straps and all that. And mainly just use the headgear for the most part, but it definitely, there was a transitional period there working with that.
Did you find that when the students came in after watching the video, did you think they were further ahead or had less questions or picked up on it a lot easier?
Yeah, so like I say, I was out on paternity leave for like 2 weeks. So when I came in, I had given them these resources to watch while I was gone and do some assessments and whatnot. And it was pretty good. There were still a few students, obviously, who didn't understand, or just, you could tell they didn't do watch any of the actual videos. They just went through and they answered the questions, which you're going to have that. But for the most part, my front end time with kind of getting them set up was, and here again, I have less people, but still, it was significantly less by using the videos ahead of time. So, and I think that, as I was telling Ken, we've been talking about this on and off. It's very easy to revert back to when you have them face to face, just going back to the old way of doing things and just showing them everything. But then I sit there and I go, wait a minute, I've already created a resource for that or this. And so I've started really making it a point to plan ahead and leverage those ahead of time, just to say, hey, before next week, I want you guys to watch this video. And then when we come to class, I'll ask them a few questions about it, or in the lab one-on-one, I'll ask them, and I can tell right away if they've done what they're supposed to do. And you know how most of these people are, a stern look almost blows them over nowadays. So it's gotten a lot better as we've went on. The participation rate, I feel, is a lot better, and the usefulness as it's caught on.
Thanks, Nate. Joel.
Oh, I had a question for Nate.
Oh, okay, I thought that's why your mute was off. So go ahead.
Did school buy that GoPro for you guys, or is that your personal GoPro?
Yeah. So when this first hit, we had gotten an email that had said basically any resources that you need up to, it was like, I think it was like a $300 amount or whatnot, you can purchase without question. You charge it to this org or whatnot. So we just purchased one. We thought we'd try it out. And we had actually talked about buying two because we weren't sure if, you know, if I needed to use it, if Kevin needed it at the same time. But really, I mean, we're a small department, so we're able to coordinate, and it worked out well. But yeah, the college purchased it for us, Joel.
So did you have this right on your forehead then? Is that how you had that mounted? I guess I'm just curious.
Yeah, there's like a headgear and it mounts to it, and then you can adjust the angle and whatnot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the biggest things they talked about was, you know, not moving your head so much, so fast. You know, you really, like Nate said, he's got it down, his production down to where they kind of know exactly where to point and shoot and kind of go from there.
And I mean, it's virtually unlimited uses for these cameras and whatnot. I mean, we were to the point first before we got the GoPro, I had a little cart and I would carry a document camera around and I would point it at a welder or whatnot. And I would go through like how to set up a Dynasty machine to run AC and what does frequency and balance do for you? And how do I set it up if I don't want to use a foot pedal versus if I do? And, you know, I mean, basically it just depends on how deep you want to go. Some of the videos are 1 minute. Some of them are, 20, 30 minutes, depending on what I'm trying to describe. You do get better. I feel like your students will get more from it if you keep the videos a little bit shorter. We all think that, man, if I could just go on for 20, 30 minutes about this, it'd be great. But I mean, that first reaction the student has when they click on a video and they see, oh man, this video is 30 minutes long, I think you're better off breaking it up into 3 or 4 videos and kind of just batching them out as needed. So it's just an experimentation game. And I'm not saying that my way is the best, but it has seemed to definitely work well for us.
Okay.
See, hey, Joel, why don't you go ahead and talk about what you guys are doing, or Eric, I mean, whoever you best think would be the best.
Eric's up to you. I don't care.
Your mute's on. Go ahead.
Well, we started. We saw this in March. Of course, we had a twofold issue going on in March. We just switched. Well, back in March, we were operating under 2 learning management systems. We were coming out of the old Moodle, and some of the faculty was moving into Canvas, our selected choice. And when COVID hit in March, they had a big push to move everybody over to Canvas. So we had a learning curve on our learning management system, and then dealing with what we had to deal with in the classroom to try to organize and deliver at the same time with it. And if we're like most community colleges and that big of a switch over that fast, we were grossly understaffed. So we had to do them in kind of regimens, the faculty in kind of regimens there. So we had folks that were really critical that had to do it first. And we kind of fell in line, but we ended up in the fall when we ended up last year, because we could not go back into the lab, our college chose to either give an incomplete to finish the work in the upcoming semesters, or they could take a refund that they could reapply to tuition. And I had a good number of students take the refund, but what I guaranteed them when they came back, I'll honor what you did in your class previously if you re-enroll in it. So this fall when they came back, I got probably 80-90% of those students back into the classroom again. And of course, when this hit, it was like deja vu all over again with them. So they looked at it and went, here we go again with it. We went hybrid. We did a good number of the course, or a good bit of the coursework is online, and we did just enough of the face-to-face to get them going in the shop, some of the safety things, some of the setup things that we had to do in it. I think we're all feeling the pain of how students respond to the learning management systems and how they're slow in returning stuff. But for years, Joel and I have kind of had a philosophy. There's timelines on things because there's timelines in industry. And you better learn it now in school where you get a chance, because if you miss a timeline out in the real world, you could be losing a job. at the same time. So we've held pretty strict to that, but we found that during these times when we're all online 100%, we just opened up the turn-in times on it. We opened them up until the end of the semester mostly, just to give them time to do things and at least get them participating with it. You know, we're both in a urban setting and we're in a rural setting here, and it makes it kind of tough because the students didn't all have computers. They didn't all have even access to what internet. So we as a college, we decided we have a lot of loaners that go out to the students, loaner computers. We got in our CARES Act, we bought computers for them. We made our parking lots Wi-Fi hotspots so they could pull up to the building if they couldn't get a connection anywhere, and they could still get a connection with it to try to do things. Joel and I for years have talked about starting to film some stuff that's personal to the lab, and that's what's unique about all our programs is we're all equipped differently there. So being able to personalize your own lab is kind of nice, but we've never had time to do it up until now. So we began to start to film a little bit and figure out how we want to do it here, thinking that we may not be back after the outage here. So in fact, we got a message this morning that said just keep your eye on it because it's looking 50-50 right now for us. So we're kind of, you know, rolling with the punches. We used a lot of video. We used a lot of different resources. The textbook I use in both my welding or all my core welding classes is from American Technical Publishers. And so is my blueprint reading book, and it's a workbook. They can buy the ebook and use that. Also, I've held to one textbook through all my core welding courses, so they don't have to buy multiple resources in it. And we supplement a lot. They've got pretty good online quizzes. They've got pretty good homework that they can do in there, and then you can personalize it a little bit. So a lot of the PowerPoints get personalized with stuff that we have in our shop and how we do things in it. It's been a real challenge though to work through welding in these scenarios. We can do a lot online, but I think quite frankly, we're the most hands-on of the skilled trades. And it's really tough when they can't get in the lab and finish the work. The progress, I'd say, was average this fall. I don't think I'm not particularly happy with how they've progressed so far in the labs. But I've attended a couple of the career centers around me's advisory committee meetings, and the employers are understanding that this is going to be a little different crop of students coming out of the welding and skilled trades program this time because the time they're missing in the labs with it. And there's really no substitute for that. We can do a lot virtually that sets the stage for it, but they got to get their hands on this stuff and run welds with it and learn those quality things. So it's been a real challenge in the online side, both from the instructor standpoint and from the student standpoint. The load of work is kind of unique when you do move online from face to face, because our limit is 12 in each class. So it's as if you're teaching 12 independent studies in however many classes you have. So multiply that by the number of classes, and it's a tremendous amount of workload to keep up with everything and keep up on top of it. So it's got challenges that people, I guess, maybe have taken for granted because they haven't been on that side. And when people think that you go online, you sit at home and you don't do anything, that's not quite the case. You got to do a lot of work to make it effective. The other thing we did is when we were hands-on this fall, because we were a recipient of the CARES Act, Joel and I, and we have one part-timer that works for us in the evenings, we made a decision to buy the Lincoln fresh air helmet systems for us because we were going to be directly in contact in booths with the students. So we have that fresh air helmet with the HEPA filter air pack on the back, which essentially is the same thing they're wearing in the hospitals for the COVID patients there. So, doing the lab work wasn't as uncomfortable with those as it might have been. Joel and I are overly cautious probably about, being careful about exposure and being careful with the students. I will say the students have been very good about following the procedures, better than I thought they would be. They understand that this is the ticket to inside the door here. You can't come in here unless you wear that mask. And that's just it's cost of doing business right now, regardless of what your philosophy or beliefs are with it. So that part has worked pretty well on it. But, I think that I'm not totally unhappy, but I'm not quite where I would normally be in this kind of a semester with these students. It seems like you get them to the point where they're just ready to break out and start doing some really good work. And you get a little bit of a hesitation like this, and it's going back to square 2 or 3 again to start that momentum on it. So they build a little head steam, and then this happens, and then you back up a little bit and start over again on it. So it's kind of a seesaw with it. So that's what I'm seeing here.
How about you? Anything, Joel, to bring you back to that?
Yeah, Eric hit all my main points, but I'm going to talk about Canvas for a second, our learning module system. I like Canvas because all summer, all I did was work on Canvas. I put all my homework on Canvas, all the quizzes on Canvas. Eric and I have a welding journal that the students are required to do every week. That's all on Canvas. So I don't even touch any papers whatsoever. Not that I'm a germaphobe or anything like that, but just one less paper that I got to touch, better for me. And I did have a timeline for all of my assignments. Once I presented it best I could, I gave him a week to get it done. And after that, it was a cutoff date. Like Eric and I discussed, since we shut down again, I opened up all the timeline to I think December 16th to 18th, our last day. If it's not turned in by then, I don't know what to tell you. I'm kind of like Allison. Eric and I have not talked or any kind of comment towards students whatsoever. I haven't seen any students do any homework or turn in any homework through Canvas at all. It's almost like all of them just dropped off the face of the earth and they disappeared. So we're supposed to be scheduled to go back the 9th, but will it be interesting to see who all shows up and who doesn't. So that's it.
What's the welding journal?
It's just
a daily, when they're in the lab, they do a daily overview, like a daily work progress report. They do on it. We also do, one of the things we do when they complete a weld, we have them do a weld document, and that document records their data. It allows them to comment on some of the techniques, the pros and cons, the things they learned on the way in it. And really, we're putting together a little portfolio. We're making them put together a portfolio. So they actually produce that portfolio document upon successful completion of the weld. And, in our core classes, we bend and test all the welds, the butt welds and the fillet welds to an AWS standard. So when they complete that testing and it's successful, then they write down their machine data, their machine systems, what shielding gases, what operating parameters they were in. The comments, what we found, become better and better as they go. They start out going, "Oh, I got the weld," and I'll hand it back to them. And I said, "On your way to getting that weld, what else did you do in here?" And make them think through, and partly, and we know this as being welders, you got to know what to do, but sometimes you got to know what not to do. So those what not to do's are just as important sometimes as a starting point as what the things are that you have to do to make it successful. So it gets them out of trouble. It makes them think through that. And that student portfolio has been rather useful in some cases. We had a scenario a couple of years ago. We used a couple of pretty unique machines, and we had a couple students go up to a company that was an aluminum fabricator, and they were using those machines, and they were sitting off in the corner. And when they were on their tour through there, the plant manager said, nobody uses those. They can't figure out how to set them up. You know anything about them? And they said, yeah, we use them in class. So they had their portfolio, and they went out and got their portfolio, and the supervisor was so impressed when they were able to set the machines up that he hired both of them on the spot. So it's a tool for them to use down the road. You know, we have the good fortune of being in the business for quite some time. So remembering parameters for us has become a repetitive kind of thing. We know about where we want to be to start a project with them. When you're new in the business, you know, you use charts and graphs and things like that, but that portfolio at least gives them a great starting spot. So we make them record that data as part of their actual weld task, so they don't get signed off on the project until we test and then do the document with them.
Well, great, thank you. Is there any questions for Eric or Joel? Cameron, tell us what you're doing.
Ah, there. All right. Yeah, this was a surprise to us. I mean, you know, back in March, my teaching style is a little different. I love 95% lab. The way I do my lectures, I individualize them. We use the Modern Welding book. I tell them all books are references, and so we had that going. But again, 95% of our stuff was in the lab, and so when we got shut down, it was a big kick in the pants. Tooling U, that was a big saver for us. You know, we were able to utilize that for the online portion. It was new to some of the students since I'm not a big online person. So a lot of the students, they enjoyed that. They had a lot of time to reflect on what was going to happen, you know, when we got back in the lab. And luckily we were able to start back, I believe fairly early. I mean, we were in there back in June, July. We had a break to where we were able to get in there, clean up our lab. Normally we run 20 in a lab. We were able to, I guess, break down our lab, July. When was that? July 6th, Laura? Okay. Yeah. So July, they all run together now. But we were able to break our lab apart and split it up to where we were running 9 for my welding classes, all my core classes there, and 6 for my fabrication classes. And we adhered to the social distancing. We set up stations throughout all the labs for alcohol wipes, cleaning supplies. Rules were wearing masks, stay as 6 feet apart as best as you can, especially in the fab class. There was some overlap where, you know, using certain machines and stuff, but things were wiped down. And we've been technically running normal up until this last little breakdown. And so we're in the pickle now figuring out what we're going to do. We put in, I think it was about a year or two ago, for a Weld Watch camera system. We were able to get one of those. It's just we've had so many technical difficulties with it that we have yet to be able to utilize it and put videos up. Our plan was to demo everything, build our projects in fab. I was going to film everything that way, and we just now got it back. So yeah, I'm listening to how everybody else is doing it now. Because this is, again, we've been in the shop since July, so this is all brand new to us. One thing that did help us out when we switched over to NC3, I don't know if anybody's familiar with that certification. So we were running everything with QC10. We were adhering to AWS QC10 setup and all that. And then during this, we were in the midst of changing to NC3, which is a National Coalition for Certification Centers. So they do a lot of online stuff. So that's been a lifesaver right now for us, is utilizing that with the way the welds go, the way the online work is. Time frames I put down when we were doing the online stuff through that. This is your entire grade. You will get in here, you will weld, you will pass according to, you know, what the specs were set up for NC3. But if you don't do your online homework, you will fail the class. This is your final grade. And I think that kind of struck the fear in them that if they didn't do it, they would fail the class. And so that has helped out keeping people moving. So, yeah, nothing too exciting. I mean, I'm still trying to absorb a lot of the ideas I'm hearing right now. I got some good ones. So thank y'all for that.
Yeah. Any questions for Cameron? Okay, Keith. What are we doing at Delta?
Hi, everyone. Back in March, we had to issue incompletes to all of our students, and we didn't want to do it, but anyways, in July, we had, for the whole month of July, from Monday to Tuesday, we had the welding lab open from 8 in the morning until 8 at night, where students could come in and work on their incomplete and finish their grade. So between us 3 full-time faculty and our adjuncts, we had good coverage there. And we had a lot of students complete their incompletes for a grade. And we started in the fall. Probably the biggest change we made was we put everything online, the syllabus, their homework and quizzes, all that kind of stuff. And kind of like Nate did, I put some videos on there to help as far as doing fit up and prep work and stuff. So when they did show up to school, we could just head out in the lab and keep moving forward to get them a grade. We compressed all of our welding classes. So we added time at the beginning and at the end of their class for the day. All of our welding classes are done right now. So we were able to finish by Thanksgiving because we lengthened all of our classes because we didn't want to be in the same situation again where we had to give out incompletes. Like as far as the online homework, it is tough for the students to finish that on time. So we just made the due date for them at the end of class. The last day of class, that's when it was due. We didn't care when they got it done, just that they got it done. And what I did is every day to start the class, we did one of the quizzes from the online homework. That way everybody got credit for it. So I think almost half of them we did as a class. So the students were responsible for half of them on their own. Pretty good success there. I think all the students got it done. Kind of like Cameron said, nothing too radical. We just moved the stuff online and tried to make it so we had more lab time and the students could be out there practicing and get their work done. And we're going to do the same for the winter semester here, starting up too. Keep the classes lengthened so we can finish in a shorter amount of time.
Okay. Any questions for Keith? Okay, there's a couple of let's see, Curtis's Automotive, Laura Michelle. We have I don't know this. I see that we have Weld God. Would you want to talk to us about what your school is doing and
That's funny. Yeah, my phone changed that. This is Tom Summerich. I'm from Muskegon Community College. I got cut off here a minute ago, so I'm just trying to get signed back on.
Sure.
As far as what I've been doing is I follow the Larry Jeffis book, Welding Applications, Welding Principles and Applications, just switching to the 9th edition. So we're using Cengage Learning's MindTap. And that's been helpful, but much like everybody else is saying here, my students, they're not taking too well to the online learning. They can't even check their emails. I'm sure many of you can sympathize with that. I did this fall when we were able to return. I don't know if anybody spoke of this during the break I had, but I tried the new Miller Open Book. It's a free LMS system, and they have some pretty good content on there. And I used that, and you can set up certain modules for them or topics that they have to view, and there's tests at the end of each one. And I tried that with my basic class, just a kind of a beta test to see how it went. and then I ask for student feedback, and they seem to enjoy it. So I may start incorporating some of that too, coming winter. So yeah, that's about the extent of what I've been working with, during this COVID time. The problem is, the biggest problem is the students just won't check their emails, and they won't do the online content. I've been very flexible with them to, extending due dates. Because, we're all here for the student success. So I felt like if I extend their due dates, it gives them another chance. But when you do it 2 and 3 times, at some point you got to say, I'm sorry, I can't do it anymore. But yeah, that's me, and that's what we've been doing at MCC.
Thanks,
I have a
Tom.
question.
Yeah, Eric.
When you used Open Book from Miller, how did you find that system accessible wise and usability wise?
It was good. There's a small learning curve to it. They do have some tutorial videos on YouTube on how to get started with it. It's a typical thing. You create your own class, and then within that class, you pick and choose what modules you want to use, or topics, and you assign it to that class. And I gave it a section number, and then students have to log into it. And basically, I just took their overall percentage at the end and applied it to their grade. And we use Blackboard, and my school, the administration really wants us to use Blackboard. So I have to deep link the Cengage learning into Blackboard, but the LMS from Miller does not link into Blackboard. So there's something to think about if you need that to happen.
Thank you.
We used Miller Open Book as well, and I thought it was pretty easy for the students to log in. They just use their same school username and password, and once they log in, it's already all set up for them. And those are the quizzes that we would cover once a day. So I thought it was pretty good for the students.
For that, so when you set the students up, Keith, do you have to set them up? Because say, for example, if we're going to use, like Nathan's tooling they might use the different username and login based on how they set it up. And so how are you able to set them up to where they use their Delta's login?
Well, they still have to go to the Open Book website, and just to keep it simple, I tell them to use their same email and password. Okay. And I'll have them do that right in class on their phones, make sure everybody's logged in. And if it doesn't work, you can send them an invite to their school email.
So they just purchase.
Overall, I thought
is that what it is? They purchase like a subscription for this, or you said it was free? Did you say it was free?
It's free.
It's free. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I haven't heard of that before. So that's something that's interesting too, that potentially that people could use. Speaking of some of the technology, and Eric mentioned CARES Act, have people been able to get equipment or equipment updates from that to kind of help them through this process?
What type of equipment are you speaking of?
Like virtual, a lot of times what will happen, and NATO contend with this, is you'll have administrators go, well, hey, we should do these things virtually. So are there things that people have looked at, or have you looked at, to do virtual welding things, or look at the potential? I mean, because all intents and purposes, there is talk of extending this past, obviously, because we've got Christmas breaks coming up, and then you've got New Year's. So there is potential to have start dates in late January.
Yeah. So, my school is planning to reopen face-to-face, subject to the COVID pandemic, but January 20th. So we'll see how that works. But as far as virtual stuff goes, we do have a Lincoln Vertex. Yes, the students play with it a little bit. I've tried, initially when I started there, I tried to really implement it into some of the curriculum. but my own personal experience, students just want to weld with real arcs, real sparks, and that's just been my experience. And so, yes, our Lincoln Vertex kind of sits there and collects dust. To be honest, it's a good recruiting event tool. I take it to a lot of recruiting events, but as far as actually using it in the curriculum, not really. It just sits there.
I think that's pretty commonplace. I can't even get Nate to contemplate getting one. The president has asked multiple times for me to get a virtual welder, and Nate keeps telling me no. So
they're very expensive pieces of equipment. Very expensive.
They can be really finicky too. We've got 2 Lincoln simulators, and they can be a real pain in the ass. For instance, when you're trying to weld with them, whether you're stick welding or MIG welding, you may have the arc showing at the end of the rod, but the rod going through the bottom of the plate in its reality. So, there's connections, there's software, there's little things like that on the inside. They can be really finicky with them. And I agree. The students, I guess you have to make a trade-off on the virtual stuff. You can spend 2 weeks on virtual, or you can spend 2 weeks in the booth in it. And they could probably supplement each other. So for instance, one of the good things about the simulators are if you can't hold a rod angle, for instance, or a gun angle, you could turn everything off but those features and make them just focus on it. But I simply look at them as an assistance tool now. They're not a teaching tool on it. From a lot of standpoints, but one of the good things it does have in it is it's got a library of resources in it. So you could troubleshoot your weld by going to the library of resources. And if you have defects in there, it'll tell you what those defects are and how they're measured. For instance, it's got it's got modules in each one of the projects for vocabulary and things like that, but they're just a tool to us. They're not the be all end all with everything. And they could be, like I said, they could be really finicky about them. And we actually use them more probably for recruiting than anything else now too.
Yep.
We have 2 over at Southwestern, and we've tried to implement them in the classroom, and we've got 2 Miller ones, and really we end up using them for recruitment. They were purchased through one of the CTEs that we worked through, and ultimately we kind of ended up saying, man, we could have probably bought about 10 welders for the price of 2 of those.
Yeah, boy,
That's
isn't that
right.
the truth?
That is right.
Or I could have had that new shear for the one that's finally broken now.
Yep, exactly.
yeah, that's been our that's been our argument too. I just refuse to buy them. I mean, just for that reason. When Nate shows me he can buy, just like you said, Eric, 5 or 6 welders for the price of one of those virtual ones, it just doesn't make sense. Is there virtual online software that's coming on that's even remotely worth looking at to kind of to showcase it all? I don't know.
I'm not aware of anything.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I haven't been aware of anything yet. Joel and I earlier in the summer got invited by one of our vendors to a welding camera vendor webinar that they did. I think it's Xerxes, XIRSES, and I'll look up the address here for you. They have a welding camera that's actually an inspection camera, is how most everybody know them. It's a camera they'd put down in a hazardous area and watch the weld up close and be able to record with it. But they've made an educational package out of it. And I think that's something we have Perkins coming up here. Our Perkins is going to be due in a couple of weeks. And I think I'm going to start making some inquiries about that. One of the nice things about it is it's designed specifically for a welding zone. And, like Nate, when you were talking about, and I think one of the other gentlemen was saying that the definition, I think it was Keith, the definition you're getting isn't really good. These have filters in them. So you're looking at them like you're looking at through the welding helmet, and you're seeing the arc, and it can be black and white or color with them. And in that package, they give you a series of filters that fit the amperage range you're working in the process. So it might be something that we look at where, and the thing I like about it is you can do your demo with it and you can project up to screens behind you so students can see it, but you can record it too at the same time. So that may help with some of those hands-on demos where, it, you know, with a camera phone, you get the flash around it without the filtration in it. So you see the arc, but you don't see the detail inside of the arc there. And this camera will give you that detail on it. So it may be a tool that could help us down the road. I just don't know how expensive they are yet. I'm kind of fearful of finding out how much they are.
Cameron had his hand up. Just
Yeah, that camera system's we run the Weld Watch. It is actually one of those dedicated for welding. It doesn't fry the sensor. Ours for some reason was finicky, but it's a beautiful tool to social distance because we end up purchasing a cheap TV from Granger and built a mount, and the students stand back, throughout the entire shop and can watch demos. But for some reason ours glitched. Even the manufacturer said, yeah, you guys got a dud for a minute. So ours just now came back, but from an educational standpoint, it's a beautiful thing. Comes with a Surface Pro for the software. You can run all kinds of stuff with it, and it's a good tool. So the one we got was Weld Watch. That I can't remember. There's some subsidiary from somebody else, but pretty decent system.
Do you know what your cost was on that?
Yeah, how much?
I did not do all the cost. My Parapro did all the ordering. I believe we did put in for a grant a couple years ago to get it. We finally got approved for it. It wasn't cheap, but it was one of those tools you'll use forever. So definitely worth it. And again, the clarity is unbelievable. I mean, one of the projects I show students is, in our advanced TIG classes, welding razor blades, and you were able to zoom in on the puddle and see every little detail. So it's pretty righteous. So
is that the brand name, Cameron, Weld Watch?
That is, I can't remember. They're sold from somebody else, but Weld Watch. I'll have to do some digging on it. Again, my Parapro did all the order, and she found
I can look
what
at
I was looking for.
You had a question, Keith.
Oh, is that in color, Cameron, or is it black and white?
I'm trying to think here. It's been a minute because we just got a bag. I'm going to say it is in color, but again, it's like you're seeing in a welding hood. You're not seeing, unless you get some high definition Optrel hood. It's a lot clearer than black and white. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of the issues that we did have to do is take some old clear hoods or screens and make a cover doing anything with spark, stick, and MIG, depending on how you set your orientation up. That fried some of the lenses a little bit. You'd see spatter marks in the system, and it would try to focus on that. But after we made our little shields, they run sweet. So
yeah, that actually is the brand. It's called Weld Watch.
It is called Weld Watch. Okay, yeah, I know there's a few of them out there, but we run the Weld Watch. It's been very good when it was working.
Okay. Any other notes on that or questions about that? One of the things we talked that you talked about and mentioned, how are you guys feeling about your numbers? What do you, in terms of recruiting? So how's it looking? Are people nervous? So you have students that are nervous to come back. We had manufacturers that, that said to me that, listen, we're nervous about sending kids additionally to school, that additional exposure, somebody gets a positive test and it could shut our production down. So how are you seeing recruiting and how are you seeing numbers? So Keith.
Our numbers have been good. All our classes were full, and the winter semester, all the numbers look good, which that's going to change with payment deadlines and stuff like that. But for the most part, our students have all been really good about wearing masks, washing their hands, social distancing, that kind of stuff. Towards the end here, right before they shut down, we were having a few students maybe not getting positive tests, but they've been exposed to somebody that was positive. So we were really thankful that we got done when we did. But yeah, our numbers seem pretty normal, nothing huge.
Okay. Cameron.
Ah, there we go. Yeah, our numbers, well, I mean, they've been waitlisted. I mean, we usually get a wait list anyway, but from us cutting everything in half, you know, our numbers, like normally, again, 20 in a booth for welding and then 12 to 15 for fabrication classes. That kind of encouraged a wait list. Students aren't nervous coming back, but again, towards the end, just like he was saying, people are getting exposed to people that have been exposed. So we never had any positive tests come through the lab. They were pretty good about it. And they're just eager to get back into the shop. I think everybody, you know, is fed up with, you know, the not knowing.
Sure.
So, but checking the numbers for our winter semester, again, we're approaching everything like it's going to roll as normal. They're sitting good under the restrictions of our limited seating. So we're not too worried yet.
Tom. Thanks, Cameron.
Yep.
What are you seeing, Tom?
Oh, here at Muskegon, our numbers are kind of low. There was a bit of a communication issue at one point. The college was kind of marketing locally that this is for the fall semester, by the way, that we're going to be online only. Well, you know, obviously welding couldn't be face to face, but I did end up receiving a bunch of emails. At least 3 from students that said I did not register because I thought there was not going to be any classes. So I ended up having 2 classes canceled this fall. But that a positive side opened up the silver lining because I had several incompletes from the winter semester. And so I just kind of opened up some lab times and sent emails to those students and said, hey, you want to finish your class from winter? Come in and do that. And so I stayed busy with that, but fall numbers were low as far as new students. And I really haven't looked in about a week to see what my winter semester's amounting to as far as restorations go. But yeah, we're kind of low, I think. Typically our max students per class is 16, and we've been ranging somewhere around 8 to 10, which is not that good.
Yeah. Thanks. Allison.
Our enrollment's struggling a bit. I know, well, we've got the solid source of the high schoolers coming in the daytime, but our adult enrollment is struggling a bit. It's not as full as we would like it. We actually had to cut some night classes in the fall semester, which is devastating because I've been working hard to keep the fall classes because that's really what gets the working adults coming in. I know for the winter semester, we have already lost 2 students that lived in our dorms. They made the comment already. They're not sure of what's going to happen. So they're just going to unroll of everything and come back when COVID's settled or something, because they ended up spending 2 weeks in the dorms at some point in the fall because they were both quarantined. It was a mess. We've had some students out of the classroom and everything. I had one point the semester where I had a thermal class of 9 and only had 3 students sitting in there because all six of them were out because of quarantine for different reasons. We're hopeful for the winter semester, especially with the scholarship running around for the CARES scholarship, because we've actually found out if they worked in factories, they actually qualify for the frontliners. I don't know if that's been spread enough, but they actually do. If they are even working in factories during that point, they can actually register for the frontliners. So we've been actually kind of shaking the tree of our students who, let's face it, a lot of us in welding have had the students that take a couple classes and then they take off and disappear and never really finish the certificate. And we all understand why. We know why. But this is the perfect time if there's free money for them to possibly come back and finish their certificates. This is the perfect time to kind of encourage them to come back too. So that's what we're kind of got in the works for us.
Yeah, we've been sending those emails out too. So,
yeah.
Rick.
Yeah, we're running into the same thing. For students coming in, the Theory 1, Lab 1, it's pretty light. That might have to be canceled. The returning students for the Theory 2, Lab 2, and the Fab 2 are pretty stout. They're all returning. They know how we do things. Like most of you, I haven't had any problems with students not wearing masks because you simply tell them a supervisor walks in, you're not wearing the mask, they're going to shut us down. I mean, that's why you come to welding, is to be welding. So I'm kind of fortunate in the aspect that all of you probably know that we have the Maritime Academy up here. And this next term is one of their required terms to take welding. So I'll be loaded up with that many students, 24, I think, something like that. But of course, we'll split those off. We have 2 to 3 lab sessions going on with those. So recruitment, of course, is a big thing. I made some phone calls, and a lot of them just don't know what to do because of the COVID. So you just I tell them, you know, we're planning on running as normal. So, you know, get signed up and hopefully that class won't close, but you never know.
Thanks. Eric or Joel, how you guys doing?
We normally run classes of about 18 in our core classes and about 20 in our non-related classes, the elective classes. And our facility was reduced down to 12 maximum on it. So we took about a 30% cut in enrollment there. We had pretty good fall enrollment coming into this semester. Not quite at capacity, but pretty close to that 12 in it. But what we started to see is the same thing everybody else saw as COVID started to close in on us there. And it was, you know, it wasn't a direct exposure in the classroom itself. It was a lot of living together in homes, or somebody coming from work that had been exposed back into the home. And you have things like that. I had a pretty close call. I did an afternoon blueprint reading class. It was a face-to-face class. And we had a little bit of a discussion, and we were social distancing and everything. And after that class is over, about an hour after that, I got an email from one of the students in the class that found out that his roommate had been exposed the day before on it. So it got a little closer to home than you care to have it get. But, you know, that's the crapshoot, I guess, when you're trying to run labs on it. The students were really good. Joel and I invested in we sanitize everything. We bought one of those Graco mist guns, like you see in the auto commercials where they're spraying the inside of the car. So we spray the classroom, we spray the machines in the booth down after every class in it to try to give that next layer of protection. The students have been really good about cleaning up. They wipe everything off with the sanitizer stuff we have. But coming into winter, people are really nervous. I think we heard that response more than anything. I think about 30% of my advanced students said, I'm just going to take a break here and let this thing, see if we can get it under control a little bit better before I take a chance with it. And then the second thing we started to run into, at least I did, I had a lot of both single parent and working parent families where one might be working and the other parent had to stay home with the kids and get them through school. So you run into all these different scenarios here where you have to be flexible enough, because, you know, how do you say to somebody come to welding when they have to be home to, you know, help school their children because their school or your children are online. So, you know, it becomes a real challenge there. So we have decent enrollment in the winter. The big question is going to be, you know, the start time, like everybody's talking about right now. We're scheduled to start, I think, the second week of January.
Yeah, the 11th
semester. We actually, if we go back on the 9th, we've got about 3 weeks left in our semester before the technical end of our semester here in our college. So this next few weeks is going to be really telling on what the potential is going to be on the startup times and how we're going to have to readjust again with things. It's you know, it evolves so fast. It's always a challenge. You know, it seems like every day you're addressing some kind of a plan.
Yeah.
So what's the next new plan? What's the next new plan with it? And I understand it, but you know, that's fatiguing too.
Yeah. Nate.
Yeah, so our numbers, I mean, based on running at reduced numbers, they were really good. You know, we started off pretty well full across the board. And then, you know, you always get a couple that drop off. So in that regard, we were good. Rule compliance was very good for the most part. What I will say, though, is I did notice that as we went further along, even myself included, I mean, just the fatigue of wearing a mask all the time and enforcing these rules and always having that eyes at the back of your head as much as you can, it definitely started to wear. And I think that people's patience was kind of starting to get a little thinner as we went on, myself included, to be honest. Numbers for the winter time, I think, look good. The concern that I have is, you know, from talking to my students on Zoom and also before all this kind of started, before the shutdown started, we would talk about it a lot at the beginning of class is, yeah, students are signing up, but if we get to that drop deadline where they go, you know, looks like things are going to be delayed, I'm just going to drop out at the last second here. And what does that do to the numbers? I mean, I think that it's imperative, you know, that we get started. That's kind of the concern from Mr. Crittner and myself. So I think that we're curious to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm concerned for that too, Nate. So, but thank you for that. We are nearing 11:30 and I want to be mindful of your time. Is there anything else for the good of the group in terms of a discussion topic you were looking to talk about? Any questions you might have from your colleagues about how you're doing this, how you're doing that, a little bit more in depth? Again, and the point of this today wasn't just we talked today and that's it. We all, you know, I'm going to send out the contact information for everyone because, you know, today might have been the first time that we've ever seen each other. And so I want to make sure that you guys can connect and give, you know, Nate, we've all done different things. So it's good to be able to share this with each other. And that's the whole purpose of us getting together. So again, is there something that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to? Okay, well, fantastic. I did, and I'll send this out to everyone. There's a couple things I'm going to send to you. One, if you could forward the automotive roundtable link to your colleagues, potentially. So I put that in the thing. I also am going to send you, we are going to try to have a Trends conference. Again, Trends generally provides, you know, presenters for, you know, best practices. We normally do it face-to-face in Traverse City. This year we're doing it virtually. The last 2 Fridays in last 2 Fridays in February. If you think that some of the things that you've done, you know, again, I've heard different kind of things that you're doing. It might be a best practice to share with other colleagues across the state. Again, it's a 30-minute presentation. I'll send the link to you if there's something you're interested in doing or participating in. And then, you know, the presentation sign up, because we're looking for that kind of thing. We're looking to showcase to our colleagues what we're doing and what you're doing, because you've all had to drop, you know, your normal way of doing things and change it, you know, 180. And so kind of, I'll send that to you as well. So if there's nothing else, thank you all for participating. I really appreciate it. I will send out the link. I'll also going to type up some notes because, you know, again, we've talked about some different things. You know, Eric and Joel is using a head unit that I had not heard of, some software that I've not heard of that groups are using. Nate's using a GoPro. You know, Cameron's doing this and Keith's doing that. So a lot of things that you're doing, you know, give us a chance to kind of look at it and and take it in. And it might be a potential that we can, that you can reach out to one of these individuals to get more information. So having said that, thank you guys. Have a
Thank you.
great end of the semester. Hopefully you can come back.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, we'll see you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Ken.
Bye. Bye.